Tia here. I'm watching Live for Love TV. Live for Love TV, very educative program. Please subscribe, like, and share. Bless up, Aya.
Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today's the 25th day of the 11th month, the 22nd year inside the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Today I would like to share a story with you. A true story, but a story of something that's happened to me many years ago. It was on a flight from Kotoko Airport in Accra to Kumasi Airport in the Ashanti region. That flight is about 40 minutes, and I've taken that flight many times before, so I was very used to the amount of time it takes to get from A to B. Anyway, I was on the flight. The flight seemed to be going quite well, and it was in the middle of the rainy season, which you all know in Africa the rainy season can last for months and months and months. It usually means it rains almost every day up to a certain point, or maybe sometimes all night. It wasn't raining this particular day, but the clouds were everywhere. So after about half an hour into the flight, I knew that we would be over the Ashanti region, over the Kumasi itself, so getting ready to land. It was very cloudy. When I looked out the window, it was so cloudy. We were in the clouds. I couldn't see anything. So obviously the pilot's now navigating to come out, exit the clouds, and then go and hit the runway. Well, anyway, when he came out of the clouds, we were not that much higher than some of the trees. So he had to make a steep incline away from those trees that would have been finished. Yeah. And when I tell you, everybody, especially moi, was terrified. I was terrified. I've been in shaky planes before, but I've never seen anything like that, where you have no visibility, and by the time you have visibility, the ground looks almost, right at you. So I was terrified, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And so he flew around a little bit, they call it taxiing in the air, and he made another attempt. Same thing happened. He came out of the clouds. We're not that much higher than some of the trees. He has to pull up very quickly. After the second time, now my fear has increased. Now I think I'm going. I think that's it. This is it. It's over. We're going down, because he can't make a descent, and obviously he can't stay up there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, this plane ain't making it. The first thing that started to come, as the fear started to increase, you start thinking about your loved ones, who you're not going to see again, who you last saw, what you like. It just comes just snap. It just happens so quickly that all these thoughts come rushing at you. Anyway, he made a third attempt, and this one was probably worse than all the others. He definitely looked like he was looking at when he came out of the clouds, I could see the ground clearer than ever. And he pulled up again. And as he was pulling up, I can tell you this is just my own personal experience. All the fear that I was feeling up to that point disappeared. I can't explain it to someone who it's never happened to. All I can tell you was that the fear just went. And it was almost like the fear itself, in my mind, wasn't real. It was like something I'd made up. People tell you about enlightenment and egos and all this stuff. I'm not gonna go down that road. I'm just telling you what was an experience for me. The fear disappeared, and the minute the fear disappeared, I looked around on the plane, because I know these were going to be the last people I see before I exit this place. So I looked around at the plane, and I saw people praying, and your head was going forward, and shaking and stuff. And I'd lost all fear, and something in me was saying, what are these people doing? Don't they realize that there's nothing there? This fear is all mental. It's totally mental. There's something bigger happening here, and I could feel it. It was almost like I was bigger than I actually was. And I'm not going to say I was floating out of my body and I could see none of this rubbish. I don't come in all this foolish talk where people talk about they're on ceilings. I don't believe any of that. I just think that they all sound the same. They all sound like they're making it up. But to me, I know my experience was I was bigger than I actually am right now. It was bigger than my body. The fear had left me, and it's almost like I was part of everything. So there was no fear. There was nothing to be afraid of. Anyway, he pulled up, thinking that the plane was gonna go down, It was a full plane. You know, it's a small plane, so it was about 50, 60 people on the plane. Thinking the plane was going to go down. I was just so relaxed, so calm. And then the pilot came on and said, listen, he can't land. He's going to have to make his way back to Accra. Well, obviously he must have had enough fuel to make it back to Accra from where he was, because he said he's going to make his way back. So 45 minutes or 40 minutes later, we were touching back down in Accra. I can never forget this. I walked off that plane, still feeling the same. As I walked off to go back to the checkout desk to get our money back, the person at the checkout desk then said to me, and said to all of us, said to us that the clouds are lifting in Kumasi. They've had reports that the clouds are lifting and they should be able to make a landing. So they're going to refuel, and we can take our flights, or we can take our money and go, you know, and go find another way, like take the bus, which is quite a few hours away, but it'd take a long way via bus, VIP bus. And I don't know what it was. I said, yeah, give me my ticket back, man. I'll go back on it. I don't have a problem. So they refueled, took about half an hour to refuel. I went back on the plane. Now, I thought it was 50 to 60 people on the plane. When I was on the plane, it must have been 4 of us. So I don't know if the other 3 felt exactly the way I felt, but they didn't have any, they weren't worried. They just got on a plane. And we flew back to Kumasi. And as we got there, you could see that when he came out of the clouds, we were a lot higher than we'd been before. And I could see that, you know, he had visibility now, so he can now see the Kumasi airport, where he can then go and land. So he landed, got out, took my taxi, got back to my house. While I was in my house, I was still in this very state. Now, I don't know if this is a real, what you call a real near-death experience, because it was, in my mind, I thought I was going to die. In fact, one thing I did leave out, maybe I said it or maybe I didn't, but when the 3rd attempt was tried, I accepted that I was going to die. That is when the fear left me. It was an acceptance in myself that I was just about to die. It wasn't me saying I'm not frightened or trying to, and that's the reason why I don't think we can get into these states ordinarily, because we can't fool ourselves into saying I'm going to die when we can see a way out. There's always a way out, isn't there? There's always something that we can do. There's always something we can try. When I was on that plane, there was nothing I could do, nothing I could try. I can't fly a plane, and I didn't have any parachute, and there was nothing I could do, nothing I could try. So I just accepted I was going to die. And that's when the fear left me. And it taught me something, because I remember being in my house for a couple of hours before the feeling started to leave again. And I've always said I would like to get that feeling back. But then I remembered when I was in that feeling, how disconnected you actually feel from people around you. You have a disconnect as well. It's not just that you lose the fear, you have a disconnect. You can't understand why people have problems. You can't understand why they're frightened. You can't understand why they don't realize what you realize. So you really can't stay in that state. So when people talk about they're enlightened, I don't know what they're talking about. If they're trying to tell you that they're in a state where they can't understand why you're not in the same state, then to me, that's just, it's a play on words. They're not enlightened. I don't know anybody who's enlightened. I'm not even sure if anybody, the way they claim they are, I don't know if anybody has ever been enlightened and stayed in an enlightened state. You see some people in some parts of the world, when they claim they're enlightened, they sit on a rock and don't move. Yeah, because because if that's the state you're in, you can't relate to anybody, because you can't say to somebody that you shouldn't be feeling the way you feel. So now that I'm back in the land of the living, the real world, I understand that state, and I also understand my current state. And that's why I did with Live for Love TV. It's something to make people know, as I know, that fear isn't really real, but it's always going to feel real. So if you really need to do something and you're really frightened at the same time, and you really know you need to do it anyway, because that fear isn't real. That's my understanding of fear now. It's not real. But I know you can't just click your fingers and pretend it doesn't exist. You know, you might be frightened, you know, you're going up against someone and you think, oh, if I go up against this person, I'm going to die, so therefore I can't go up against them. But if the reason for going up against them is important, you need to go up against them, regardless of whatever the outcome is. It's the fear telling you you shouldn't that makes you lose out on everything in life. So that's why I'm saying that this is what I learned from it. This is what I teach on, or I share. I don't want to say I teach. This is what I share on Live for Love TV. that I walk through as many fears as I can on a daily basis, but I have them. They're there every day. My mind has fears. My mind has that same, just like everybody else, voice where it says, oh, be careful here and watch out there and this might happen and that may happen. And you know, it's normal. This is what the mind does. The mind does this constantly. When people say it's there to protect you, I don't know. I don't know if it's there to protect you or if it's there to fool you. I've got no idea. That I can't say, because on that plane, I can tell you quite clearly, it wasn't there. The fear that I had when I was on that plane and the fear I lost wasn't there to protect me at all. Had nothing to do with protecting me. It was there at that point to fool me into thinking I was a very little, small, minute thing in this universe, when really I'm far bigger, far greater, just like you are. And this is what Live for Love TV is all about. Take care. See you soon.
People, one step more, one step more, one step